So this is one of the tracks that we're doing on the consumer side. And this is really looking at 3 different stories of how consumer brands across products and services have been built out. And I'll just spend a few minutes introducing folks on the panel. So to my immediate left is Supra Maheshwari, who's the founder and CEO of FirstCry. FirstCry, as you all probably know, is the largest retailer of baby products in India and have the largest offline footprint of baby stores in the country. Next to him is Piyush Bansal, who is the founder and CEO of Lenskart, which is the largest online retailer of eyewear products and the largest retailer of eyewear products in the country by volume, also having a very large footprint offline. And lastly, we have Amar Sahu from Nestaway. And Nestaway is currently the largest home rental network in the country. And I think present in 5 cities now today and expanding very quickly. So some very esteemed folks on the panel. And the reason why we wanted to have this panel was obviously, as we've seen in the morning talks by Nandan and Rajan, digital commerce in India has come a long way. And e-commerce, which was one of the first waves, followed by the offline aggregation side, has really grown in leaps and bounds. And obviously, there's a lot of room still to grow. But folks on this panel will really shed light on a few different aspects of how they've built their businesses and eventually built brands, both on the online side as well as on the offline side, and look at how an omni-channel approach has actually worked in India, which is very different from most of the rest of the world. So Supam, just starting with you. FirstCry has become one of the largest vertical e-commerce companies in the country across all categories. Specifically in the baby category, FirstCry started at the same time as 3 or 4 other companies, which were also funded by fellow VCs. What's been the journey like for you and the team? And just walk us through the scaling process that you've done over the last 4 or 5 years.
Sure, thanks, Karan. Good afternoon, everyone. So I think in last couple of years, 4 to 5 years of our journey, we finished actually 5 years, just about to finish 6 years in a couple of months. Yes, we had competition in the niche space. There were at least 3 or 4 venture-funded companies. I think I would largely say that it is a great sort of a teamwork of building right strategies, what will actually make you win. And I'll exemplify all of it, and then drilling it down and making it work. Because there are a few things that you have to do differently, not, we will realize what we have to do, but we have to do it differently. So, in my opinion, we were not the first entrant into the market. We were the 3rd entrant into the market. But despite that, I think what we did differently was a lot of innovation in doing things differently. So one example that I can probably talk about, so the biggest pain in the online industry, we all know, we all heard Rajan speak about it today in the morning session, and he happily sort of said that, while he can be on vacation, machine can keep working and churning money for him, which is the Google and Facebook, where we all then end up spending, marketing dollars. There's no end to it. So we have reached to a certain scale, and beyond that, you will have to spend more and more, and that becomes obnoxious. So what really is the innovation that you can do to drive conversion online without spending money? That, I think, is a sort of a framework that we worked on it. And this is just one example, which I'm talking about. We partnered with around 7,500 hospitals across the country, all the nursing homes, all the maternity clinics, likes of every top tier hospitals. These are maternity clinics where we give a FirstCry gift hamper box, and this has all the baby products which the mother will use after giving the birth to a baby and before she leaves back her home. And this box will have all relevant products, which is a breast pad to a diaper to a all kinds of products that the mother will need. Now this has reached to a scale of 100,000 boxes a month, which means we meet 3,300 unduplicated mothers every day across 125 cities in around 7,500 hospitals in the country. Now this is scaled up. This is a fairly micro-targeted program, and it gives a conversion of around 10%. Now, you can imagine what we have done with this particular one initiative that I'm talking about. And likewise, I think all of us, we all have to find ways to be able to make the strategies that we make. Customer acquisition is a part of the game. Now, how do you do it more efficiently is your choice. Now, and this is one problem that we solved through this puzzle. And today, 25 to 30% of our new customer acquisition actually happens through this channel, which is absolutely free of cost. And then likewise, you have to build more strategies to solve other pains. This is one area that I will talk about that differentiated us from the rest of the guys. And second is the basic day zero strategy, which is an omni-channel. In 2011, June, we had our first franchisee store. I don't think you can cross-check, you can back-roll the time and see anyone was thinking actually to put a physical store in 2011. I think none. And we even had faced questions from our, investors. Why are you even doing it at that point in time? This is not required. You are in the e-commerce world. Why are you going back into the sort of an offline world? But I think today we have more than 180 physical stores. That business model itself is profitable, EBITDA positive. The point I'm making is, this is where you're building the brand. You're building a customer connect at the least cost. And at the same time, you're owning the customer, whether in offline channel or online channel, and being able to overall build an omni-channel. So these are strategies which I will say is what differentiated us and probably helped us to be where we are.
Yeah, and I think some of the omni-channel points we'll probably cover in a later section. And one of the reasons, we did invest and, very fortunate to partner with Supam was the fact that he had 2 stores operational when we met in April of 2011. Piyush, we met, I think, in July of 2011, and it was through an email that TCM got, an email marketing campaign that TCM got, and Venkatesh met you the next day. And it was one of those funding stories that you hear about and which was written in books. Similar story with Supam, actually, which I'll come to. But when you started, obviously, it was a collection of both inventory of third-party products. You had some of your own products, but it was largely a trading platform for consumers. Obviously, that strategy has evolved almost 180 degrees from where it was today. You built 2 very successful brands in the country, and both on the online side, offline side. You're at a place where you're larger than Titan in terms of shipments per day, and I think in the next 12 months, you'll be ahead in terms of revenue, which is unbelievable, right, to do this in 5 years. What would be helpful to understand is what made you try to build out brands so early on, where very few people were even thinking about, building a private label, as we used to call it, rather than, just focusing on third-party brands.
So I think everything I have sort of done or we have done has been, I don't think it's as much planned as it is what the consumer tells us. And I think because my early days were in Microsoft, we were always a consumer backward. There was always a consumer backward training. So whether it was to open brands or whether it is I'll tell you early stage of opening the brands, it was just going and meeting consumers. And what we realized is that the person who spends 1,000 rupees for buying a pair of glasses, his or her aspiration of the product is no lesser, right? They also want all the styles, they also want all the colors, and they also want the best quality. But from where some of us may look at it, we may feel, 1,000 rupees, only this much you can get. But I think they still want to get the world in that price, because for them, that's an aspiration. So I think it's all relative. So I think at the end of the day, I don't think we decide or we can decide whether the business should be a private label business or a branded business. I think the consumers tell you. If you look at eyewear, particularly spectacle, it was very clearly written that more than 99% of spectacles that all of us wear don't carry a brand name, right? It's actually true. I mean, and in sunglasses also maybe that number is 95%. 5% is Ray-Ban, but rest everything is just, there's no name. And so somebody had to write the name. So we did it, right? and
And nicely chosen names.
and
also.
nicely chosen names. And I think we are still actually pretty bullish in saying that India would need multiple brands in eyewear, because if you look at apparel, right, apparel is flooded with brands. You have all the Madura brands, you have all these international brands, Zara and H&M coming into India. What about eyewear? And somebody like a Ray-Ban, coming in selling a sunglass for 6,000 rupees is not going to be able to touch the tip of the surface, of the eye. So I think at the end of the day, eyewear is fashion. We totally believe it's fashion. So what will consumer want to wear? And I think it's going to be a Ray-Ban of India. By the way, Ray-Ban is it's actually like the Vincent Chase of India. Trust me, it's sold at Walmart in US, and that's how it is. So I think there needs to be that Ray-Ban of India. There needs to be the Emporio Armani of India, and I think that's what So hopefully in the next few years, I think 99% of people who don't wear any name will start wearing some name, and we want to be that name. I think. Yeah.
Excellent. Amar, I'd love for you to just share some of your personal journey in starting Nestaway. It was through a personal problem which you faced. And it's amazing when through a personal problem, you're solving problems of other people, which turn out to be a huge opportunity for people like us, right? So it really works out well. But just walk us through that initial part of how you thought about creating what Nestaway is doing today. Obviously, there has been a lot of evolution, but that initial period when you started off, you share some of your thoughts over there.
So I came to Bangalore in 2004 with a bunch of my friends. My first job was Bell Labs, and I sort of struggled a lot to find my house, but somehow I found it. So at that point in time, finding a house wasn't the top of my agenda. I got rejected like at 10, 20 places, but somehow found it. 2014, my cousin comes. Actually, I have two cousins. A cousin has a house, another cousin who is a single. So in 2014, 10 years hence, when I go with her to help her, find her a house, the problem is exactly the same. The level of, the trust deficit that owners carry for people who are from other places, who come to Bangalore or Pune or Hyderabad. And a lot of times we also figured out that, back in 2004, we were paying 10 months deposit. In 2014, it's also the same. And it somehow figured out to be like a year worth of salary for my cousin. So I was like, come on, I wish that the problem should have been fixed, because by the time I was married, so I was in a different world. But this world hasn't gone anywhere else. And my cousin, he had a job in US, so he came to my house, threw the key, and told me, "Jo karna hai kar le," and he just left. Because he couldn't believe the local brokers to take care of his house when he's not physically present, and the time zone gaps would make it very, very hard for him to oversee his property. So there was this supply side who was crying for attention. There is this demand side who was also crying for attention. So we thought we could kind of stitch them and create a business out of it. But then we didn't want to be on the cost side of it, because if you look at it, commission, if the guy doesn't make more money, we're part of the cost side of the equation. So we said we'll unbundle the inventory. We will enable subunit rental, not the entire full house rental. And by unbundling, we'll create more access for singles to get it, and thereby hopefully make slightly more money. And the owner makes slightly more money than what he used to make even after our commission. And it started. So kind of continued from there on, and today we host 18,000 tenants across 5 cities in India.
How many rentals are you doing each month now?
So we house about 5,000 tenants. Last month we did 4,300. This month we did 5,000, and we add about 1,200 new houses every month to our portfolio.
That's amazing, because this was actually one of the first examples that we saw, which was a homegrown, shared economy model, and then now it's working at scale, and that I think is very, very hard to do. Just this is a question for all three of you, right? At least I know that all of you have different and some common strategies when it comes to tackling the omni-channel approach and going offline, and some of you guys mentioned it. But I think it'll be very helpful to understand what have what have been the strategies that have been used? So Supam, I know, the model that FirstCry uses is all franchisee stores, right? All cash and carry. But beyond that, what is it that makes people actually want to work with FirstCry to get to 180 stores in 4 years?
There is no large retailer in the country in the offline space. So first of all, why did we even go into the omni-channel? It's very simple. In the e-commerce world, you will actually solve all the pains of the supply chain and a consumer experience that you want to enhance. When you are actually solving that pain, why not apply that solution to the 90% of the TAM, which is offline? So that is the genesis of why we first of all went into the offline. And it was very hard to build the first franchisee. I can tell you that because I come from a background where I did not know octroi as a word in my dictionary. So having to learn octroi and then to be able to build a physical store, it took us a little while. But we got first partner who we had to convince, cajole, but we finally made sure that he likes us and we like him. And then we delivered results for him. We helped him to deliver results. And after that, we got the second, third. First 5, 10 were difficult. But after a point in time, we wanted to make the architecture very right. We did not want company-owned stores because that's the typical problem that happens in the retail when you actually build a company-owned model and a location or certain catchment or certain other variables go for a toss. And then you realize you are sitting on a very, high cost, fixed cost. So we decided not to have even a single company-owned store, but manage the customer experience. But with that, and how to make our franchisee win, we ensured the overall game plan was to anyway own the entire baby and kids category. So our overarching strategy was to fill in all the gaps. So we studied what the merchandise to be kept at a store, let's say in Bangalore versus a store in Surat or versus a store in Udaipur. So we had, fortunately on an e-commerce platform, we have 120,000 SKUs. So we can define different merchandise depending on the catchment area of that particular store. That's what differentiated us and was a winning strategy for the franchisee as well. And then all this process we made seamless that he has to only buy from one player, which is us. So it's a completely cash and carry B2B trade. And once you had 5 and 10, all systems were in place. We're still working on it. I can tell you that there is still more innovation happening even on a weekly basis. There is so many things that we have delivered. And just to give you an example of loyalty cash points, do you know of any company in the country, any retailer in the country which has, where you can burn or earn online and offline together? There is not even a single retailer. Not even Shopper Stop, not even Lifestyle, not even Titan, not even XYZ. And we have done it like a year back when you can burn or earn loyalty cash points, either offline burn or online earn or whichever way. See, these are things that you continue to innovate, and these are the things which help the franchisee to build confidence, and their paybacks were very smart, very good. They opened first one, they opened second one. Many of our franchises opened multiple shops, and this viral continues, and then it's on a roll now. So that's how it's been progressing so far.
And it's quite a roll. It's actually a profitable business,
Yeah,
which in e-commerce world is as rare as you can find it, and at scale that too. I think which is really amazing. Piyush, I know your journey on the offline store side at least was a little bit later, but there were other innovations that you guys also did, right? The try and buy at home, the home eye checkup, etc. And frankly, I think all of those was an integrated way to actually get the customer offline. But just help us think through again how the model works today. In no time you've reached to a scale of 180 odd stores, and I know it's largely profitable, and then the growth is pretty immense. But again, how did all these things come together for you guys?
So I think for us, I think it's again the consumer backward approach. We were at some point doing, I think, 4 crores of revenue on 3 crores of advertising.
Which is not good, in case you're wondering.
No, but I think, and then you are looking at consumers, they always have to ask this question, why people who are not buying, and why people who are buying are not coming back and buying. I think two fundamental questions you need to keep asking yourself, and you can ask yourself that question for the next 10 years and still find something more to do. So I think it was very clear that that the traffic on the website was still pretty high. The conversion is 2-3%, and I think it was like benchmarked. You're at 0.5% above the other guys, so you're doing really well. So what do we do of the remaining 97, 96% people? And for us, it was really that these people, and then we called some of these people because we had the sign-up form, and they said, we want to buy it, but we're not sure about this, and we're not sure about that, and I don't have an eye exam. So when a lot of people said, I don't have my eye prescription, and we were just selling specs online, we realized, okay, let's solve the problem of eye prescription. Now, one is we could send them to another optician to get an eye prescription. That is like shooting yourself, right? And they're not going to ever come back to us. Then what do we do? So we decided, okay, let's figure out a way. So we started sending an optometrist, a sales guy, in a van with a 20 kg equipment and to the customer house. And all they had to do below the buy now button is say, I want to buy, but I don't have my prescription. And we started doing that. And I think that is how the home model evolved. So today, the van became a bike. The 20 kg became 3 kg. The imported equipment became a company-owned equipment, which we got made in UK for ourselves. And today we have, and then you had to book an appointment 1 week in advance. Today we have, we're doing close to about 1,000 appointments a day, out of which 500 happen real time. So in Bangalore, actually, some of you can download the app and say, I want an eye checkup right now. Just like Uber, it will detect your location, it will tell you it is 30 minutes away. Now, if all of you do at the same time, some of you may not get it right away, but we're building that capacity. So what we realize is that people want the service if it can become available and accessible. So today the model is very beautiful. It's really just Uber of eyewear. If the guy has an app, the system has an app, people go on the app, or they call, we're building a phone model now. You say, I want an eye exam for my family, and now or on Sunday, within the next 7 days, and the guy comes and visits you. He does an eye exam for you for 100 rupees, in which you can get 3 eye exams for the family. About 60% people end up ordering from us after that. So just like Supam said, the hospital model is an innovative model to acquire customers, and more than 50% of the consumers we acquire here are new customers. On the store side, I think when we were doing this, we again realized that this is enough, but some people were still not comfortable with this, and that's how the store model came about. Our store strategy is a little different from First Cry. We always believe that we are a B2C company, and we, in our business, you can't just buy and sell like as a franchisee. We need to make every specs ourselves. So we had to solve the problem of saying that the franchisee doesn't have to be a franchisee, it just has to be another employee or partner of Lenskart. So I think for us, the relationship with the franchisee was never about they buy stock from us, because they were not our customer anyways. They were just saying that can there be an employee who can work as a percentage basis rather than a fixed basis, right? And for us, the model was always simple. They are our customers, which is his customers. We need to control the entire chain. So, and we believe, franchisee business is has traditionally has all of these problems of, the consumer experience. So there are two things which is critical. Like, why can't Domino's be a franchise, right? Because then they leave the the making of the pizza to the franchisee, and that never works in my view, right? So and our business was really that we had to make every specs ourselves. So we said, okay, product is only going to come from the center. The franchisee books an order online, we are going to deliver the specs. Then the second is the staff. And after some time we realized at the end of the day, the training and the experience needs to. So we've now moved into a model where we're actually putting store managers, which are on company payrolls. We actually even control the salary date of the employees even on the franchisee payroll. So it is that deeply integrated. And we have seen huge success. I think we have some of the most profitable franchises. We're adding about 20 stores a month consistently.
And your stores are both Lenskart branded and your brand, like John Jacobs.
Out of the 200 stores today that we have, 198 are Lenskart branded. 2 are of our private label John Jacobs, which is a longer term play for us to able to establish and build that Ray-Ban of India. But it's primarily Lenskart stores, and there are about 35 of them in Bangalore. Another 25 are coming up in Bangalore, so you won't miss them, I'm sure.
One around each corner. Great. Amar, I think the point which all of us at IDG found very interesting, and continue to find is that for you, omni-channel is both on the supply side and on the demand side, right? And I think you have to solve for both at the same time. But I think solving for the supply side, right, getting suppliers, getting the brokers to be able to work with you, is beyond difficult, right? And the fact that you've been able to do that at scale in 5 cities is pretty incredible, right? So again, help us think through when you started looking at how do I go about getting supply? How do I go about working with brokers, existing people in the ecosystem, because you're fundamentally changing the way the supply side works, and then obviously changing the way the consumption is happening, right? But the way you actually went about getting that supply in the first place and solving the omni-channel problem there would be very helpful to know a little bit more about that.
So as you know, we are a two-sided marketplace. So we got to get homes beforehand, and then we got to get tenants. And if tenants don't come, homes fly away. And if homes don't come, tenants don't come. So when we started, we thought of converting it to a one-sided problem. So we thought we'll acquire demand online, but we will fetch supply offline. And partly also because when we started, we were nobody. And we were looking for exclusivity in the rental mandate. So the property that is with us isn't anywhere else. So when we wanted to do that, we thought we should go with brokers because they're these guys who are more known than us, and historically there have been relationships between owners and brokers. It's just that the incentive structures weren't working out well. So we introduced a 2.5% perpetual annuity model for the broker. So if you're a broker with us, you just need to get a house to us, and you don't need to sort of go get demand. Demand generation is our job. The broker's job is to just go and open the door and show the house and attend service requests as like a guest relationship officer. He doesn't need to do a plumbing, but he ensures that the plumbing is done in time. So the guy who was not able to make money by trying to do sales online because the number of channels for acquiring tenants have proliferated. Facebook, Quicker, horizontal, vertical marketplaces and all of that stuff. So here the broker brings us a house, and we say that, and our average house generates about 40 to 50,000 rupees a month. So a 2.5% commission of that comes to about $1,000. So if he manages 30 homes with us, that means on an average just one service visit a house. So he makes 30 service visits a month, and he makes about 30,000 rupees consistently. And it's the LIC agent model, right? Wherein what do we see that the best broker with us today makes about 1.5 lakh. And it's not he, but his servant who goes and does it for him. So he's like now the guy who is orchestrating the show for us, and they do a fabulous job. I guess what we realized in the process is that there are a lot of people who are unnecessarily trying to do sales when they don't know how to do it right, but they are fabulous at doing ops. So we use the brokers for their operational capabilities, which are much better than us, and we sort of focus more on demand generation and sales online. So everything happens online, the broker does it, and he makes good amount of money. It's more like a job for him without being a job, and there is exclusivity between brokers. So the same house can never go to two different brokers, which is a new thing in Indian market, because I think there is no mandate exclusivity in India. So there are about 500 brokers, and about 70% of them are making more than 20,000 rupees a month. So they're quite happy.
That's a great model. But on the demand side, right, just to look at the second side, obviously getting trust for customers to be able to trust you first and then trust the houses that they're in or the rooms that they're in, right? Because you do both by house and by room. That would have taken not just the ability to reach them, but to also convince them, convert them, right? So what did you guys use, and what do you guys continue to use to do that?
So we offer a 3-day no questions asked refund. I think that's novel in its own, because everybody gives you a credit. Nobody sort of in the model refunds your money, but we are the first player in this space where you say you don't need to come and see the house, but if you don't like it within the 3 days of move-in, the entire money is refunded. I think it's a milestone from an owner angle, because he thinks, yeah, somebody came into my house, he stayed for 3 days and he's going out, and you guys aren't paying me money. We initially thought it would be an issue, but I guess people are getting more comfortable about it. Today, 30% of our rental closure happens without people seeing the house. They come and they just stay. They just book it online completely. They pay this complete security deposit.
Would have never imagined that 2 years back.
No, no, not at all. I think these guys have done a fabulous job in training the consumer in India that, look, you could trust online brands. So we are a beneficiary of that. I never thought people would do a 20,000 rupees transaction online.
I think there has been a lot of work which people in this room and in the audience and others that we know have done to get consumers to transact online and transact at scale. Supam, I know a lot of our time in the initial days on the board was looking at the supply chain side, right? And I personally believe one of the reasons you've been so successful is because that was something that you cracked very early on, where people just didn't know how to crack it. Because whether it's the fact that diapers form such a large part of sales, or you have to get products to customers much quicker than other categories, so on and so forth. But it's very helpful to just look at what's been accomplished over the last few years, starting the own in-house logistics arm, which is now a separate company, and other things around supply chain. But helpful to go through that from your side.
Sure, Karan. So I think I personally believe, baby and kids business, apart from being a specialist sort of a play, there is a large part of it's almost like a mini horizontal in its own vertical. We are talking about, a very wide range of SKUs, and SKUs ranging from a diaper pin, which could be 10 grams or 5 grams, to a toy car, which could be 25 kgs. So now you have to imagine a customer or a mother can actually order any of these, and our warehousing and last mile delivery operations actually be accommodative of this fact to ship and ensure a good product experience at the end of the day to that mother. But this requires a whole different back-end planning. Now, this is very complex. So this was very clear in few days of our ideation process itself. So we actually spent 2 years of our life. When we started the company, we had no office. The office was in the warehouse, because that's where you build the company actually. We did not have the luxury of large e-commerce companies or international e-commerce companies who would have done it, and they would have had experts doing it. But there was no expert, because expert would be very expensive and we don't know what he will deliver. It should suit the Indian requirements. So we actually spend time in the warehouse to put a process to manage this range of SKUs from entire supply chain perspective till the time it is last mile delivered. So this was one piece. Second, apart from the warehousing operation, this last mile delivery piece, we started our own in-house logistics team way back in 2012 as an experiment. And in that process, we realized we were saving 30 to 40% than shipping it by RMX or First Flight. And then also the experience of the customer was far, far superior than what we were having the experience with some of the other national third-party players. And anyway, their tech systems were very poor in any scenario. So with cost savings and better customer experience, we said, let's scale this up. And that scaling up, it really went so well that we started as a pilot in one city, scaled it up to 5 or 7 cities. Today, that arm that was an in-house arm has become a separate company in itself. We hide off as a separate company, and that demerged company today is called Express Bees. And Express Bees today ships to around 300 cities. It's the second largest player in the country in terms of the last mile delivery. It does more than 100,000 shipments a day. It does work for Lenskart. It does work for mostly all e-commerce players. And we take pride in ourselves because of this relationship that we built, and we deliver in 20 cities same day delivery. So if you order by 12 o'clock, you will receive the shipment by 6 or 7 p.m. same day in 20 cities. And in close to around 120 cities, you will receive next day delivery, guaranteed free of cost. We don't charge for same day delivery and next day delivery, unlike some of our horizontal players and some other players. We don't charge. This is how we have built a very unique supply chain model across the country. So I think this is I would say this is a very little, a work which requires a lot of thinking and hard work and making rigor to make it efficient and efficient and efficient. There is no easy way to really make it work. That's all I think we have been successful in, building these two pieces of the legs of supply chain so brilliantly that has worked for us.
I'll just like to thank all three of you for your time. I think it's been really helpful, and I'm sure the audience has enjoyed it. So thank you very much, guys.